day, just another day. I pray soon as I woke, never thought I'd be the victim of a paralyzing stroke. On that day, just another day. I pray soon as I woke, never thought I'd be the victim of a paralyzing stroke. Could be you. It happened to me. Never thought it could happen to me. On that day, just another day. I pray soon as I woke, never thought I'd be the victim of a paralyzing stroke. On that day, just another day. I pray soon as I woke, never thought I'd be the victim of a paralyzing stroke.
What's up, everybody? How you guys doing? We have another great episode for you guys for another installment of our AVM Awareness Series for October, AVM Awareness Month. Before I get into our guest, I want to bring in the lovely, the talented, the beautiful, the vivacious, gorgeous woman of my friend. Her name's Christina Perez. Christina, how you doing?
Thanks for that intro. You practiced that.
Yeah, I did. I messed up last time.
Hi, good evening.
What's up, sis?
Hey. Happy
We did 2 so far, right? We did 2 for this month of October of AVM Awareness Month. We had a mother that had a daughter that died. We also had another mother last week.
Hi,
oh, man.
Miss
Last
Gina,
week it was crazy, wasn't it? That young lady, Ava, was off the hook. She gave us so much information. I loved her. What did you get from her? Did you get that positive vibe that life can be great no matter what kind of situation you're in?
As her mother described her as a kick-ass little girl, she is super kick-ass, wise beyond her years. I did see that you posted a reel of some, she was speaking about how not to take things for granted, and everyone that commented on it were adults. And this is a 14-year-old girl dropping gems, as the young kids would say right now, dropping the knowledge and the energy with her mother. Hi, Miss Selena. Hi, Ava.
Out of mouth of babes. We get much knowledge.
With the Paige Keeley Foundation, Miss Gina, and all that she does for her daughter Paige, who passed from an AVM. Force of a Woman. We've had some great guests, and all women. Surprise, nothing against you men. But I love that. And I said that to you. I said, have you noticed that it's all women? I love that. And I love that for this community, because we've had everything. We've had a mother of a child who lost their life to this. We had a mother whose child suffered this, and she's now taking care of her daughter experiencing this. And then today we have Miss Cassidy, herself as a mother, going through this and how she's recovered from it. And then we have the beautiful Miss Erica ending our month, and her survival story and her advocacy and all the things that she's been doing to bring awareness. Just a very strong tribe of women pertaining to this. And then there's you, Greg.
I'm just the last thing when I'm a dessert or something.
And then there's you. You're so good with those graphics, honey. You're so good.
You're a mess. All right, so without any further ado, let's start the part 3 of our AVM Awareness Month series, and bring Cassidy onto the stage and see what she has to say for us. So, without any further ado, Cassidy, Ewart, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Hi,
I'm well.
Good.
Christina was just talking about how much that we have all these women on here giving us flavor of the month for AVM awareness, giving us all this information about AVM awareness, and we're so grateful for it. And I know I'm happy and excited. I'm actually really excited to hear your story, because we had mothers talking about their situation, their point of view, but now we actually have a survivor. and they're
Yeah.
going to be telling us what they actually went through. So, Cassidy, I don't have any words. I want to leave the floor to you, unless Christina want to lead you off. I just want to hear about your story. What happened to you on that unfaithful day?
Okay. So it was 15 days before my 27th birthday. Me and my family had gone and looked at hummingbirds that day, and I just had a terrible headache and I was just tired. I just did not feel good. And I went home with my daughter, who was only 3 at the time, and my boyfriend that I was dating at the time. And I just had a terrible headache. And I have vague memories of hummingbirds, vague memories of making dinner. And the next thing I know, I wake up in a hospital. It's been 3 months and I'm 27 years old. I haven't seen my daughter and I can't walk and I can't remember anything. And it was just terrifying. And my mom, I remember she told me, Cassidy, you had a stroke. You have a mass of blood vessels in your brain that isn't supposed to be there, and it ruptured, and you have a stroke. Lenny is fine. She's with our aunt. She's fine, but you're going to be here for a while. And I was just terrified. I remember I was so scared. When you wake up and 3 months of your life have gone by and you cannot walk, it is very scary. And so that is kind of how my story started.
Hold on, you said you was in the hospital for 3 months?
Yeah, because I
You said-
started out, I live in Idaho, and where I am, I had to fly, I had to be life flighted to a different town to get the care that I needed. That was it's 2 hours away. And then from there to go to a good rehab hospital, I had to be life flighted again to Colorado. And I was there. So I was in the hospital from June until September. And it was right in the middle of COVID. So my family couldn't really even come and see me. I got to have just 2 visits with my daughter, and we weren't allowed. We had to stay within 15 feet of each other. We had to socially distance. It was the hardest experience of my life.
Christina, I'm hearing all this. You and I both had our experience before COVID, so this is kind of new for us when we hear this, that Cassidy had to go through this. And being a mother, it seemed like your daughter's just running all over the place in the background. Being a mother of a daughter that's very active and you can't be around her. How was that for you? Was that difficult to actually deal with?
It was so hard. I remember I would call her every day, and she was 3, so she did not want to talk on the phone. She never wanted to talk to me. She was so busy playing, and it was so hard. I was just heartbroken, but I would still call her every single day, hoping one day she would want to talk to me. And for her, it was really hard too. She ended up getting really bad PTSD from it. I put her, after I got out of the hospital, well, she would tell me, Mom, when are you coming home? I was like, Lenny, I have to relearn how to walk first. And she'd be like, Mom, I'll teach you. Just come home and I'll teach you how to walk. I was like, it doesn't work that way. But so she had a really hard time. And at first she thought I had died. And so then she just had tons of PTSD after. I put her in a preschool after I got back. And they told me she has too much PTSD. We don't know how to help her here. You need to try to get her in somewhere else that can help her. And so I ended up putting her in another preschool that worked out better for her. But it's been a struggle for both of us. That separation for so long, it was very hard for both of us.
Christina, I can't even imagine this, Christina, having this type of major brain injury. And then how old was your daughter, Cassidy?
She was 3.
Having a 3-year-old trying to explain to a 3-year-old that, mommy is okay, gonna come back home soon. What did that do to you, Christina? What does that, as a female, because you said we had so many women on this show, how would that actually affect you as a stroke survivor and knowing that's going on within you?
I'll correct you. I said strong women. So for me, I can't even imagine, I can't even imagine not being able to be with your child. So of course, me not being a mother, but having that sense of love that I know only can come from a child, I can't even imagine. We as survivors speak about how difficult it is in reference to finding that closeness to ourselves and our previous selves. And even with you, Greg, when we had your daughter on here, um, there's been a lot of um, awareness and insight of parents like you guys, um, who have dealt with this and have a child. So essentially, Greg, I think that question's for you because you're a father. You're feeling something that I can think about, but I absolutely don't have that connection yet.
So men do actually bring some quality to the show. Is that what you're saying?
I'm giving you about 2 seconds, but if you're not going to take it, I'll reel it back.
But yeah, I do agree with you, Christina. It's heart-wrenching, When I was in the hospital, I wasn't in there for 3 months, but when I was in the hospital, I wanted to see my daughters each and every day, and I couldn't see them. I was just like Cassidy. I was out of state, so doing my rehab was very difficult, and all I could do was video FaceTime my children, and that wasn't good enough for me. I wanted to hug them. I wanted to hold them. I wanted to talk to them. I wanted to kiss their chunky cheeks. I wanted to do all of that, but I wasn't able to. So yeah, I get where Cassidy is coming from. I was more trying to figure out from a woman's perspective, as Cassidy was saying, her daughters were saying, "Hey, mommy, I'll teach you how to walk again." And how would that actually emotionally have a toll on you as a woman? That was basically the question I was really asking of you, Christina. But
I don't think that question pertains to me. I still
okay.
feel that question absolutely pertains to either of you two as a parent, because your job as a parent, when you brought these souls into this world, is to teach them those things. And now they're speaking about teaching you two. So Cassidy just told us how that made her feel. So Greg, right back to you. How is
Before it
that?
gets right back to me, we got some comments. We got people who wanted to say something.
He's got to switch it up.
Yeah, I had to switch it up. I had to switch it up.
Cassidy, I wish I could, honey. But for me, I'm not a mother. I could not relate. I could not, even as a woman. Being a woman necessarily doesn't mean being a mother, right? It means being a woman. But I'm sure that was very difficult for you because, again, I have my own mother. And I know now, even with my mother, she's going through dementia, and seeing her in that state and knowing that if my mother was cognitive enough to know that I was sitting there and feeding her, and I'm going to stop talking about her because I can't handle it. How what that would do to her as a mother. So I could imagine for the both of you, on top of you yourself trying to get yourself together, seeing your child trying to take that role.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah.
Cassidy, one thing I did want to say, I was listening to you said more than once about hummingbirds. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you're very connected with like spiritual meanings and stuff, but hummingbirds is a very, very spiritual meaning. It's usually about hope and sometimes that if you could Google it, but that, like challenging times of healing are going to begin. So I think it's very significant that when you were speaking about that particular day, you said more than once about those hummingbirds. It was almost like somebody was giving you a sign that something catastrophic was about to happen, but
Yeah.
you're going to be able to get through that. So whenever you get time, you should like go. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I will. I have never heard that, so I'll definitely look it up.
Yeah.
Christina has some comments or questions on here, so I want to bring them out. So here's our first one.
Destiny, thanks for having the courage. Cassidy, this is to you. Destiny states, thanks for having the courage to share your story with us.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad to be here.
Rizal stated, I can't imagine. I feel bad when I have a cold and have to take care of my child.
Yeah, it was very hard. It's still been hard. But yeah, thank you.
Kim states, wow, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Rizal, hey Rizal. Rizal said, hey y'all.
Hey.
So, back to this, when this actually happened to you, you said you're in a different state, and you woke up 3 months later, and then all of a sudden you're in this different state. You find out you had a stroke. Did you know what an AVM was? Did you have
No.
any clue what was going on with you at this particular time?
No, and neither did my family. And so the thing is that I live in one state and my mom lived in another state, and she recently moved here to help me with some things. But so the person I was with had called her and said, Cassidy is just got taken by ambulance. She's in the hospital. They say she's had a brain bleed. My mom had no idea what that meant. None of us had heard of an AVM before. None of us. And even now, like, I went back through my medical records and I was shocked because there were 2 EMTs that came to get me. And one of them, he was saying how he just thought that I was having behavior issues, and he didn't even want to take me to the hospital. He was like, she's just having behavior issues. She doesn't want to go. We don't need to take her. And then the female EMT said, we have to take her. We can't just leave her here. We will get in trouble. We have to take her. And so they did take me, and thank goodness they did, because then they got me there. They did all these drug tests because that EMT was still sure it was a behavior problem and that I was on drugs. And they did a drug test and it wasn't that. And so then they finally looked at my brain, saw that I had an AVM that had ruptured, and then life flighted me to the next hospital.
Hold
So
on,
we
hold on,
hadn't
hold on,
ever
hold on,
heard of
hold on,
that.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. There's a lot being said right here, and this is throwing me off. And I think maybe Christina, this part might be relatable to you, that people are misdiagnosing you, thinking that something else is happening to you, when in essence, just give me a brain scan and you will see that something's going on. How does that hit you, Christina, when you hear something like this being misdiagnosed, like how you was misdiagnosed, and it seemed like it's just a common thing in the medical community? What's going on through your head when you're hearing that?
Anxiety. A whole bunch of anxiety, in the sense that I have spoken about it here on our podcast, that I went an entire week with my brain bleeding unknowingly, and took the steps to essentially try to save my own life. And ultimately, thankfully, I was in a position where my life was saved. But, going to my primary care doctor 2 days later, driving myself to the emergency room, and being told that I was having, I believe, chest pains, and being sent home with pain medication, and then the next morning it actually rupturing. Cassidy, I absolutely feel your frustration. The first thing I felt was anxiety, to know that you're not okay, and you possibly, during that moment when they're saying you're having behavioral issues, you were probably off the wall because your brain was bleeding. And when your brain bleeds, that is toxic to your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on where your brain is bleeding, right?
Yeah.
Uh, behavioral, you can start saying things. Hence why we have all these invisible disabilities. It just, for me, it brings a lot of anxiety, and it also pisses me off, because if I'm, this is what it has nothing to do with pain, but like, even so, even if you think I'm lying, what does that do for you?
Right.
What does that do for you not to have to take me? Let me worry about those medical bills.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what amazed me is that in the same sentence of them saying it was behavioral, they also said that my left arm was not responding. And that to me is like a sure sign of a stroke. My left arm is not responding.
That's amazing that, you know, they basically put every different diagnosis on you, but they're not ruling out anything that's happening to your brain. That makes no
Right.
sense to me. Now you
That's
can see why we're so passionate about this, Cassidy. We want to bring out awareness to people so they can understand how severe this is.
yeah.
And the craziest thing for me, we're just gonna wait for a little second until Christina gets back on, is the craziest thing for me is when you tell people that you had a stroke, automatically they assume that you have a bad diet,
Mm-hmm.
that you're stressed out, or anything of that nature. They don't realize that if you have a brain bleed, an aneurysm, or AVM rupture, that could actually lead to an actual stroke. And that is the part that really gets me really at the heart of my issues. And that's why Christina and I want to bring out this podcast so people can understand. It doesn't mean that because I'm overweight, that means I had a stroke. And it had nothing to do with all three of us on this screen right now. Didn't have anything to do with our way we eat, the way we drink, the way we exercise. It had nothing to do with that. You could go to the gym each and every day of your life, and what happened to us could happen to anybody, and it's undetected because people don't even really look for it, and that's
Yeah,
wild.
the only thing I can say about me, honestly, is that being, a heavy smoker and drinker, I'm sure it did not help that I essentially had that. But ultimately, I was born with something that really went unnoticed,
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
speaking of which, Cassidy, was there any precursors prior that you can remember that you possibly went through, that would have given you signs that something was off, memory loss, or
No,
anything of that sort?
no, I never had any issues really. Like I would sometimes get headaches. And I remember one time when I was in high school, I told my mom I thought I had a brain tumor because I was getting headaches. But she was like, I think you're fine. And she's like, I think you're a hypochondriac. And now I kind of sometimes rub that in her face. I'm like, Mom, look at my brain now. Something was wrong. But I don't actually know that those headaches had anything to do with my AVM. My neurosurgeon said that they probably did not. So I don't think I really had anything to show that I had an AVM.
Christina, we have some more comments.
Greg, they're really small. Why are they so
I'll read them
small?
if you can't see them. I'm sorry.
Oh,
It
I
says you're
got
an incredible mom, Cassidy.
Thank you.
They're really small. All right, I see it. Hi, Rizal. He wasn't even qualified to diagnose her, but almost made a life or death decision on her behalf. Insane. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what does you taking me to this hospital and me getting that bill have to do with you, sir?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's so weird. Clayton said, now that you've gone through so much time and recovery from the initial stroke, what is life like?
So actually, my stroke, I recovered really, really well from my stroke, but then I had to get radiation to my AVM because it's too deep in my brain to remove. And I ended up getting radiation necrosis, and it completely took out my left side. So I can't use my left hand. My left leg doesn't work while I walk with a really bad limp. So life is hard, but I'm happy to be with my daughter. So I'm happy, but it's hard.
Now, you just said that with what you had to go through, Cassidy, to essentially eliminate. Now, is your AVM controlled, or with the radiation that you went through, what status are you in?
So I just got an angiogram just like a few weeks ago, maybe like a month ago, and it actually showed that my AVM is completely sealed off to blood flow. So I'm AVM free, like the dead AVM is still in my brain, but I'm no longer at risk of having another stroke. So I'm very thankful for that.
As are we for you, honey.
Yes,
And
I'm so.
we celebrated that.
Yes, I did. And my daughter every day for like a couple weeks when she would wake up in the morning, she'd go, "Mom, are you just so glad that your AVM is gone?" I was like, "Yes, I am." She's like, "Me too."
Hummingbirds, Cassidy, those hummingbirds.
Yes.
I love that for you. Now, if for instance, I for my AVM, I got a coiling. They went through my main groin up to my brain because mine is actually in my left pica, which is at the base of your brain. So it wasn't a very good place for them to actually cut my skull open to get to. It's a very remote area. And it's right where your two main arteries that supply blood to your brain is. You have a left and a right. Mine was in my left. So they had to go endovascular through my main groin, and I have a coiling. So I still have the AVM, which ultimately caused also an aneurysm, but it's coiled. I'll always keep that in the back of my head, like to know that it's still in there. As far as you with this recovery journey for you and hearing after your angiogram, which is absolutely awful, by the way. I do not like angiograms.
Me either. They're
Are
awful.
you awake?
I am.
Me too. Why do they keep us awake? We don't want to see that.
I
No one
know.
wants
They're
to see
terrible.
that. I don't care. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see it. How did you feel seeing that?
I didn't even look. I was like so out of it. I had just gotten in an argument with my neurosurgeon right before I went back. And I was just upset. I'd been crying. And so I didn't even, I think I just laid there with my eyes closed the whole time because I had been crying. So I didn't even look, but I just remember I felt like my head was going to explode. I'd seen all these people say that they're just so good and like they're so easy. Mine was not easy. I did not enjoy it.
The audience, for the audience, the viewers who are watching and may not be familiar with what an angiogram is, us survivors, us three beautiful people on this screen. Greg, I don't know when's the last time you had one, but you literally have to lay absolutely still. They sedate you a little bit, but essentially they stick a little camera all the way up your main artery into your brain. And there's a huge screen, and you can literally watch them go into your body. And it's very dangerous. Yes, we speak about the benefits of them looking, but I don't think there's enough information about the risk of us getting those angiograms every single time. The damage to our arteries, bleeding, like the risks are very, very high. But it is not a fun experience. Greg, do you recall getting your angiogram?
Yeah, it was fun.
You watched?
Yeah, it was
surprised.
Great. It was great. My guy was talking about golfing. He was like, "Hey man, after we're done with this, we're gonna go golfing, do 18 holes." I'm like, "All right, let's go." So I was cool and relaxed.
You weren't going nowhere.
I wasn't going anywhere, but he was so cool that I didn't feel anxiety or anything like that. I just thought it was just a regular procedure. It was cool. It was nothing to it. But we do still have some more comments on here, so let's bring those comments out.
What we got? Miss Carissa, Cassidy, you are a very strong woman and a wonderful mother. I love you, and I will definitely try and make it on your big day. Love you, girl.
Thank you, Carissa. I love you too.
Cassidy, one thing I can see from these comments, and I really want you to take that, is that everyone keeps mentioning how good of a mother you are.
Yeah.
And I hope that you truly take that in and you believe that.
Thank you.
I do.
Thanks.
That's awesome that you have people telling you have a good tribe.
Yes, I do.
That's very important during this journey. Kim, Cassidy, did you have a seizure with your AVM? Had my first seizure 41 with my AVM. I still have.
So I have never had any seizures. I've been very fortunate to have never had any seizures.
Kim, I had a seizure when I was younger. I had 2 seizures, but this was back in the 70s now. And my pediatrician told my mother, hey, he's a strapping young looking boy. He's fine. Nothing should be really concerning you. There's no alarm. So nobody really understood what those AVMs were all about back then, I guess. So it could hit sometimes and not. We got to also remember that when you have an AVM, if you have a stroke, this is your brain. Your brain controls your whole entire body. So it's different things going to be affected when a stroke happens. So some people might have seizures, some people might not. Some people might throw up, some people might not. I myself, I have balance issues. Christina, what do you have?
An abundance of love and godliness.
Talking about your ailments, your deficits, Christina.
I believe it or not, audience members and Miss Cassidy, I'm blind for one eye. Yeah, Greg likes for me to read the comments, just FYI. Let that marinate.
Ironic.
Hey, Christina, what's your deficit? I'm completely blind in my right eye.
And you do such a good job. You still do a good job.
Thanks, Greg. As long as you think so, buddy. Destiny.
This is good eye. Read this one.
Destiny says, what is something you love doing with your daughter now that you couldn't do earlier in your recovery? Good question, Destiny. Thank you.
That is a good question. We go swimming a lot. And at first, I couldn't really walk across like when I would take my shoes off and then walk to go get in the pool. My balance was so bad that I would almost slip and fall every time I would try. So I just never took her swimming. But now I've been doing physical therapy for a long time, and I can finally take her swimming, and I can walk from like the benches or tables to the swimming pool without almost falling. So we love to go swimming now.
Cassidy, I have a question for you, and this might be a little bit personal, but you know, me and Christina went through something like this. Christina already went through her divorce when then she had her AVM rupture. I had my AVM rupture, then I went through my divorce. You know, I know you're a mother. Was you married before this? And also, was you married during your stroke or after? What was the story behind that, and how did you actually deal with it?
So I was married before my stroke. It was crazy. I was married, gotten a divorce, and I had just moved to Idaho. I hadn't even lived in Idaho for a year. I had just gotten my daughter and I on our feet by ourselves for the first time. I was like finally so independent. And then I had my stroke, and all of a sudden all of my independence was gone. And it just completely turned everything around. So
I ask you that because I really want people to understand this, that we have lives. Everybody has their lives, and something happens, and then everything gets changed upside down. Christina was basically in the same type of boat that you was in. She got divorced, then she had her AVM rupture. You know, I was in the process of trying to mend my marriage, and the stroke happened, and the marriage was completely gone. It was completely out the window. But you said something pretty interesting, and I think Christina could relate to it a little bit. She was always telling us that, hey, after her stroke, she trying to get right back on her feet, and life was going to start right back up, and she's not going to stop for nothing. And trying to rely on other people, she wasn't going to do that. Did you have that same type of problem trying to become independent, even though you're just going out of divorce? I gained my independence, and all of a sudden, boom, you have to rely on people all over again. How was that transition for you?
it was so hard because I went from being independent to coming home. I couldn't fold my own laundry. I couldn't wash my bedding and then remake my bed. And when I started getting bad swelling in my brain, I couldn't move my left arm at all. And I had to have my daughter, who was like 3, help me get dressed. And I can tell you the first time I had to have her help me get dressed, I just sat on my bed and I just cried. I just cried and cried because it was like, I'm supposed to be taking care of her, and now she is having to take care of me, and I just felt like a complete failure. But thankfully, I've had a lot of really good people in my support system, and like, you know, my mom always reminding me that I'm a blessing and not a burden. And then my aunt, she told me one time, you know, you've always been helping other people. It's time that you let people help you. And I had a doctor in my rehab hospital who he told me, it was when I was like really struggling with my memory. I couldn't remember anything. I couldn't figure out my way around the hospital. I couldn't remember my doctor's names. And I said, I used to be so smart. It's like, and now I'm not anymore. And I just cried. And he said, Cassidy, you are smart. Not used to be, are smart. And he said, it's because of where your AVM is and where your rupture was. It's a brain injury and it's affecting your brain in that way. He said, someone with an AVM in the back of their brain would lose their eyesight. Would you call someone who is blind from an AVM rupture stupid? And I obviously would not. And he said, okay, then you need to stop being so hard on yourself. All of these deficits that you have are because of brain injury that you had no control over, and you need to be gentle with yourself.
That's heavy. I was gonna say something, but I'm gonna leave it alone because we have
You're
somebody
not
on the show
gonna
that
say
we got
because
somebody on the show that you know that can't
number
say a word
one,
of mine. I
and
don't know.
number two, I'm the one reading the comments, and I had it in the back of my brain, and I lost my vision exactly like your doctor said. But yeah, who's reading comments, Cassidy? Thank you very much for bringing that to light. And I completely understand that you wouldn't call somebody like me stupid. Hello. Greg, on the other hand, is a whole nother story, which we don't have time for because this is for you. And this is about you sharing your story. In any case, sir, Miss Cassidy, you mentioned about the moment when your daughter had to help you and how that really broke you down.
Mm-hmm.
As a mother, how do you think this experience for her when she becomes an adult will affect her if it would not? Like, how do you feel this experience ultimately is shaping her?
So I've already noticed that she is like way more of like a compassionate and caring person than most kids her age. Like at school, she is like the first one to volunteer to help someone, and like if she sees someone who is hurt, she tries to help them. She's just so caring and she has such a big heart, and I feel like it's because of what we went through that she is that way. And she knows, like, she just like has just this big heart because she knows that of the things that I've gone through, and she's watched me struggle. And she's funny because she will be like, Mom, if anybody ever makes fun of you for your walking, it won't be good. I'll take care of it. I'm like, okay. So I think it's made her like a strong person who's always going to stick up for people and who's always going to care about people and be there for people.
Empathy.
Yes.
And truly, that just truly means that's a very big reflection on you as well, Cassidy. I don't think empathy is something that can be taught. I feel that that's something that's actually just kind of given to you. I absolutely, hands down, my empathy comes from my mother. As tough as she was and rude sometimes, my empathy and my gift of being able to tap into people and to tap into what it is that they need comes from my mother, because she had an abundance of empathy. So kudos to you for that, because she absolutely gets that from you.
Thank you.
We got some more comments on the screen, so let's get you with your eyesight and get it ready to read some comments.
Greg, did you not like that previous comment I said that I called you out on? I apologize. I was just bringing light to the fact that you said, hey, Christina, what's your deficit? Hey, Greg, I'm blind to one eye. Let me go ahead and read your comments. Okay, Rizelle again. Hey, girl. The strength, Cassidy, this is for you, honey. And
Okay.
this is Brazil is a beautiful soul as well. She's also a mother. So the strength your daughter is witnessing through you, it's going to inspire and drive her to do the amazing things and become an amazing person. I hope you truly, deeply embrace that. And I am in agreement. Yes.
Thank you guys. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Destiny said, are you looking to get back into the dating field? Cassidy, this is for you. Are you looking to get, honey, my girlfriend's watching, it's not for me. Are you looking to get back in the dating field? If so, has your preference changed since before the rupture?
Wow.
So actually, I just got engaged in June. And I did get back in the dating field after my stroke, and my preference didn't really change, but I felt that that some people are just not understanding of like the struggles, and there were a lot of people who made me feel like I was less of a person because of my deficits, and I did not think that was fair at all. But that was one of my biggest struggles with dating. But now I'm engaged to someone great, so.
Cassidy, congratulations, honey.
Thank you.
Is that what your friend was talking about, your big day?
Yes, yeah.
I knew it was something.
Thank you.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm completely lost. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
So, Cassidy's engaged. She found love.
Oh, congratulations.
You got to break it down for Greg.
Yes, please do.
Love Greg after a stroke. She just mentioned, Cassidy, I don't know if you ever went back and kind of looked at our, when we started out, but we had a couple episodes where we spoke about dating after a stroke and things and you literally brought up some of the things we tapped on, that dating after a stroke is not easy at all. And now you just said you're engaged.
Yes.
For me, because, I like happening. How did you know you were ready with everything that you went through, with everything your daughter went through?
Like, how did I know I was ready to date again?
It's a lot different than just selling, when we ask a normal person who hasn't dealt with a life-altering event, like, were you ready? I'm asking you, how did you know you're ready with what you went through?
So I had to go through a lot of counseling. I'm still going to counseling. And it was when I got to a point where I wasn't just like so stuck in my life and the circumstances of my life. And I had finally like kind of gotten where I was at peace with what had happened to me, and where I was like at peace with my deficits. And then I was like, okay, if I'm at peace with these things, I feel like I'm ready to bring someone in. But when I wasn't at peace with it, I was like, I am a mess. I cannot bring someone else into this mess with me. But through a lot of counseling, I finally just felt like I was at peace with the situation, and then I could bring someone else into that.
What's peace?
Well, so at first, I just had a really hard time accepting my new life. I had a really hard time. My counselor had me make a photo album of all of my pictures from like my whole recovery, like from my stroke, when I was in ICU, from when I was in the rehab hospital I was at. She had me put a photo album together of all those pictures because I was just struggling with it. I was like, I'm so damaged. No one is ever going to want to be with me. I'm just so broken. I walk funny. And this is going to sound really ridiculous, but I had a tube put in my brain right here, and I still have a little dent, but I had a bald spot right here. And I was like, Mom, I was talking to my mom, and I was like, Mom, I have a bald spot. I walk funny. I can't use my left hand good. I'm a single mom. I'm like, no one is ever going to want to be with me. And I had to get to a point where I could accept that was my life, and that was okay, and that my life was still good, and I still had something to offer. And then I decided, okay, now I can bring someone else into my life.
So I have a good question for you. A great question. It's a topic of debate between me and Christina. As a stroke survivor, and you're initially dating someone, you said you had to become comfortable, right? You had to be comfortable who you are. And you put yourself out there. I don't know if you went on Bumble or any one of these dating sites, but do you talk to a person and say, hey, I'm dating you, okay, boom, 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 before you actually meet them in real life or go on your second date? Do you tell them that you're a stroke survivor, or do you wait longer?
No, I tell them right away.
Ah!
I tell them right away because I have visible deficits, and there's going to come a point where they're going to have to cut my fingernails on my right hand because I can't do it.
Say,
And
whoa, stop. You have problems cutting your nails?
well,
Shut it down.
I can't cut them on my right hand because I can't use my left hand.
So telling
comes
people
Greg.
that you have problems cutting your nails and you asking people to cut
I don't
your nails.
ask them right away, but I tell them that I have had a stroke, because when that comes up eventually, they're going to notice something's different about me when they meet me, you know? If you guys met, like, if you guys saw me walking, or you saw the other day, I was walking out of my mom's house and there was a little girl walking down the street, and she was with her grandma, and she said, "Grandma, that lady's arm is broken." And I work at an elementary school, and I had a student ask me, "Why do you walk like a pirate?" I said, "Because I am a pirate." But so it's like, it's noticeable if I'm going to go on a date with somebody. So I tell them right away, because it's like, at some point, if I meet them, they're going to see, they're going to know, and I want them to know why, instead of them just, I don't know, just assuming
But
something.
my thing is, like, at some point, and it's not about me being secretive. I just feel like not everyone deserves your energy.
That's
This is
true.
different. This is not me telling you I like tofu, I like Chinese food, I like Jamaican food. This is you telling you something that was life altering for me, and as to why I am. I'm not leading with that because you don't deserve that. I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
When we get to a point where I know I already have that interaction with you, we have a connection, then I feel comfortable, because essentially it has nothing to do with leading with the right foot, or, I'm not catfishing you per se.
No, you're not.
I feel like when you go through something like this, a life altering event, that changes you, and it does.
It does, yeah.
Therefore, I have a whole new life. Greg, take notes, because you want to be throwing all of that, cut my nails. That's why he got excited, because he actually said that on his show.
Did
I
he?
want to make sure she'll be able to cut my nails. I said, Greg, cut it down. Take me off screen. I'm done. First of all, don't hit me up about cutting no nails, sir. I'm a survivor. I'm not cutting your nails. But for me personally, and which is good, I think it's good that we have different, looks. What's the word I'm looking? Views on that. I personally would not, and I have not when I was dating, lead with that. I'm very big about preserving my energy and my being. I don't feel like everyone deserves that, because now if I give that to you, some people may take it like, oh, if they don't take, okay, they don't accept me. Da, 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 da. But honestly, that's not all who you are, Cassidy. You're not just a woman who needs help with her hands. You like art. You like hummingbirds.
Yeah.
You like swimming with your daughter. That's what I lead with.
And I do lead with that. And I do lead with that. But if I'm going to be meeting someone and they're going to be seeing me, then I tell them before I would meet them.
Because it's something that's, like visible. But no, honey, Greg on the profile was like, hey,
I'm a stroke survivor.
You cutting nails or not?
I don't do that. See, now you're misquoting me completely. But you can see, you hit a dog, they're gonna holler. So you holler really loud about that situation, Christina. I get it.
There's nothing to holler about. I'm a committed young woman in a committed relationship. And I understand, but we have our disagreements about that.
No, I get it.
Exposing myself is not for everyone. You don't deserve that. I don't know who you are. Sorry, sir.
No, but seriously, but I do agree with you, Christina. I understand what you're saying, but I think Cassie brought up a very interesting point that she said for herself, not for anybody else, but for herself, that she had to find out and be comfortable with who she was as a stroke survivor. That's why she could make jokes with the little kids at the school. So yes, I am a pirate. She was comfortable with her own self. So going out and on a date and leading with, yes, I am a stroke survivor. If a person can't deal with it, it didn't affect her at that point because she was already past that. She had to get past that actual horizon in order for her to actually go out on dates. So that's for her. And that's what I was saying, the same thing. I was so I felt like inadequate as a man because I couldn't pick up things. I couldn't work. I couldn't move a dresser like I used to be before. I used to be able to do all these type of things. I couldn't do it anymore. And I'm like, why would a woman want to date me? That was what was in my head. Then once I got past that, I would lead with that. And I realized there are people out there that don't need me for my physical looks. They don't care how I actually walk or talk. They just care who I am. My energy, like you were saying, Christina, my energy was right. And their energy was right. And we built. And I found love instead of me trying to hide things. And then later on, they hiding things. And then I'm like, why did you hide that from me? I'm like, why did you hide that you was a stroke survivor? So I didn't want to go through that. Just straight up. So I understand what you're saying, Christina. I also understand what Cassidy's saying.
And I understand what you're both saying. I don't agree with it.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I had a nurse.
I hear you both, Cassidy, sweetheart.
I
hear
had
you,
a nurse,
Gregory.
I had a nurse one time who had read through my stuff, and when she met me, she asked me, "So, like, were you just born this way, like walking like this?" And I was like, "No, I was not born this way. If you would have looked at my stuff, you'd see that I had an AVM rupture." And so I'm like, that's what people are going to think when they meet me. They're going to be like, they're going to come up with their own ideas of what happened to me or think that I was born this way or something. So I'm like, I'll just tell them at the beginning. And then also I have this theory that you should tell people the bad stuff right away, because if you get attached to them and they don't like it and then they say something mean, it'll just break your heart.
Yeah, I think she saw the interview with me saying that, because that's exactly what I said.
I didn't see it.
Are you a Virgo? Are you a Virgo, Cassidy?
No.
Oh,
what are you, Cassidy?
I'm a Cancer.
Same thing. We're good.
He said same thing. It's not. There's nothing like a Virgo, Mr. Greg Graham. Nothing.
We like each other. We like Cancers. Cancers and Virgos. We like each other. We're cool.
Well, good for you.
But seriously, but all jokes aside, let me ask you something, Cassidy. When you go out to places, and I'm just switching subjects a little bit, can you tell if someone had a stroke?
So it's weird. I can't. My mom, I can't.
Really?
Sometimes I can, like if they're walking or something, but I don't notice. I think it's probably because I have to watch my feet. I am constantly looking at my feet because I am at such a risk of tripping and falling. But my mom, when we go anywhere, she'll be like, that person's had a stroke before. And she'll point them out to me, and they walk just like me, or their hand is just like mine. And it's just exactly the same. But I don't personally notice it.
The reason why I'm asking that, because, maybe you could expand a little bit further. When you actually get pointed out that person had a stroke, do you strike up a conversation with them? Because I know I do. Whenever I see a stroke survivor, I can instantly talk with them. It feels like we're in some kind of fraternity that nobody else understands what we're talking about, and it's easy for us to have a conversation. Do you do that?
I have before, but it's weird. I don't just like randomly, like if I see someone in the store, I don't generally. But if I see someone like in a waiting room of the hospital that I'm at, then I can easily. But I don't usually if I'm like at a store or something.
Cassidy, I have a question for you, honey.
Yeah.
Something that Greg and I kind of touched upon within this podcast is that within our recovery, him and I were both surrounded by different energies, which essentially allowed us to grow into who we are. Me being this beam of light and Greg being Greg. Who did you surround yourself with? Were you surrounded by people that were understanding, like other stroke survivors, or had connections with other stroke survivors similar to Greg? Or was it something like me where I absolutely had no stroke survivors? I was surrounded by no one who even knew what a fully an AVM was or a stroke was during my recovery, especially as a mother.
Yeah, I basically surrounded myself with my family, and none of them are stroke survivors. None of them really knew much about AVMs. But then I also got on an AVM support group on Facebook and talked to several people. My friend who messaged and told me that she could hope she could make it to my big day, I met her on an AVM group. And so I talked to a lot of people on there, and that was a big support and a big help to me, especially because an AVM still felt so just unknown to me. But really, my family is what helped me a lot.
Okay.
I completely respect that.
Okay. So as you are coming back home, because let's go back to that actual story. You're coming back home and being a mother. You're coming back home, and your daughter's helping you get dressed and things of that nature. And you feeling inadequate as a mom. How was that transition? Do you have any tips for people that was in the shoes, that are in your shoes? Sorry, that were in your shoes. What's wrong with me tonight? Christina got me all flustered. Do you have any advice for people that in the shoes right now that you was in before that you can actually help out with?
I think you just need to be patient with yourself, and you need to recognize that you're still amazing and you're still wonderful no matter what you're going through. And especially if you're a parent and you're going through this, and you're inevitably, I know you're going through feelings of, I'm a terrible parent now. I can't take my child to the park and play at the park. I can't chase them. I can't get on the floor and play. All these things. And I know, at least with me, I was just constantly beating myself up about it. But don't. In your child's eyes, you are still amazing. One time I asked my daughter, I said, Linny, do you wish that you had a mom that could take you to the park and could run and jump and play? And she told me, no, I don't want that. And I asked her why. She said, because I love you. And one time she told me, Mom, I love your bad hand. And I was like, really? Why? And she's like, because when you hug me, that arm can't let go because I can't move it well. And she's like, so you just hold me tight with that arm. She's like, so I like it that way. And so it's just show yourself some grace and recognize that you're still a good parent even with deficits, and you're still a great person even with deficits. Your heart has not changed. You're still you, and you're still great and wonderful.
The transparency, something you keep talking about when you give us a message, is the transparency. How do you think, because you did mention that your daughter was only 3 during that time, what is too much transparency for a child? Because she's soaking everything up. This age, this stretch of age from 3 to where she is now, she's soaking everything up. How much transparency is appropriate for a child to deal with this? Because you're talking about transparency that adults like Greg and even me dealing with other adults weren't able to comprehend. So how do you as a mother know this is how much transparency is appropriate for my daughter?
So I feel like I'm not a good one to ask this question to, because I'm a single mom. And so it's like her and I all the time. And so when I would get a call from my doctor with bad news telling me, like, the swelling is still in your brain, you're going to have to do chemo injections. Your swelling has come back. Now you're going to have to try this. Or like whenever I'd get bad news, she was always there. And I would end up crying in front of her, and she'd be like, Mom, why are you crying? I had to tell her. I couldn't just not tell her, because then she would in her own mind be making up her own reasons why I was crying, and I was afraid that they would be worse than what the real reason was. And so I've always tried to actually be very transparent with her, and but also tried to be like gentle about it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. One of the things we had Greg's oldest daughter come on the show. Lovely young lady she is. And some of the things she mentioned, now granted, she is much older than your daughter now. You know, she is a young woman. And I had asked her the question, you know, did she ever feel as though she was the parent? And she actually said yes. She felt that there were times that she had to take care of Greg, because it seemed like he couldn't take care of himself, and that it was a huge toll on her, that it
Mm,
wasn't a place that she wanted to be or that she felt like she should have been as a child. I
yeah.
ask you this in the sense that because there are people who are going through this, like yourself, with children the ages as you're going through. With hearing that and knowing that this really does take a toll on children,
Yeah.
what do you think you could do differently during your own recovery to ensure that your child is being nourished correctly?
So I think it's important, like, I try to protect her feelings in everything that I do. That's always been like my biggest priority. Um, and so, like, if I try not to talk to her about anything like death related. Like, if I'm scared I'm going to die, I don't tell her that. Because when she had her PTSD, that's what she was scared of. Like, she was scared of her dying. She was scared of me dying. She would get the stomach flu. She would break down crying because she thought she was dying. So I try not to talk about anything death related with her. But one thing that I wish I could change, but unfortunately right now I can't, but hopefully after I'm married I can, is I have to rely on her a lot to help me with, like, she has to clean the bathroom, and she has to help me tie my shoes, and she has to help me do the dishes, and she's only 6 and she has to do like all these things. Or like when I'm at the school and a student asks me to help them tie their shoes, I have to go and ask her to, hey, can you come tie this student's shoes? And it's like, I feel like it's a lot of weight on such little shoulders, but right now, unfortunately, it's not something I can change, but I wish that I could.
I
That's,
get that. That
thank
makes
you so
sense.
much for your transparency, honey. I
Yeah.
know that was a tough question.
Yeah.
I know I warned you ahead of time, girl. I'm sorry, Cassidy, but I
It's
say
okay.
that in the sense that I know that there's going to be other mothers and fathers with children that are dealing with this. I mean, you know, the gentleman who made our amazing promo song, you know, Doja Cat. I
Doja
remember,
Cat? You call him
yeah,
Doja Cat?
Doja
You
Cat,
call him
you
Doja
know, but
Cat?
he mentioned during one of our podcasts with some of the things we were speaking in relation to children that it's something that made him rethink about, you know, asking his children some of these questions. And although Greg likes to relay all these questions to me, I'm not a mommy. I'm a dog mom, Cassidy.
Yeah.
I have an abundance of empathy. I can't relate to you guys. So I appreciate your transparency, and I really do. And I think I do think it's very important for people to hear that, because we hear about us really trying to get our lives together. But how are you trying to get your lives together when you had a whole nother life that you're trying to build, you know, as a
Yeah.
parent? And it's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Cassidy, you
Thank
said something very interesting, and I really appreciate you saying that, is that people have to really understand as a parent, and you go through a near-death experience or you become paralyzed, become paraplegic, whatever it is, um, your children are very resilient. And you said you rather tell her instead of her coming up with something inside of her head, her own imagination. and coming up with something, or even having her friends tell her, this is what happened to your mom. This is why your mom this way. So it's very important that we as parents be mature enough to actually speak to our children and be honest with them, because whatever we say about ourselves is going to reflect on them for the rest of their lives. So if they have a lie at 6 years old, when they turn 40, they're going to go back to that lie and think that is the truth. And that could affect how they actually perceive how they deal with other people. So I really appreciate you saying that. I have another comment that came in.
Miss Yolanda, thank you for sharing your story, Cassidy. I'm proud of you. You are amazing.
Thank you.
She is. You
Thanks.
are,
Thank
Cassidy.
you. I appreciate that.
Because it's not easy. It's not
not
easy for us either.
So
I know we seem like we do our, but it takes a lot to get this together, you know. It does, you know, between the timing.
So back onto the thing of telling her the truth. When she was 3 and I had my stroke, no one talked to her about what had happened to me. They didn't, because everyone was so wrapped up in what was going on with me. They never had taken the time to tell her what had actually happened to me. And she was staying at my aunt's at the time. And she went and they were saying prayers, and she said she wanted to go say them by herself. And she went on the stairs, and my aunt went over and she said, "Do you need my help, Linny?" And she said, "Yeah." So my aunt sat by her, and she said her prayers, and she said, "Please let my mom come back to life." She thought I had died because she didn't have a clue. No one had been transparent with her. And so that's what makes me think that in her brain, she's probably she's going to see me crying, and she's going to be thinking, "Oh my gosh, my mom is going to die." When really I'm just crying because I'm just overwhelmed, and I just got news that the swelling hasn't gone down, but doesn't mean I'm dying. It's just frustrating and overwhelming to me. So that's why I try to be transparent with her.
I get it. I completely get it. I had the same situation with myself. I had to be very open with my daughters, even when we was going through our divorce. I was like, "Hey, mommy and daddy's not gonna be together no more." We had to tell them that instead of just hiding it and thinking that, well, daddy got sick and daddy hates us and that's why daddy left.
Yeah.
You can't let your children come up with their own ideas because they're children. So we have to be able to tell them. But I had this one situation that made me really think about this completely all the time. I had a guest on one of my shows, and she went to the hospital after she had her stroke, but she told her 5-year-old child that mommy be okay. Mommy's going to the hospital. She'll be right back. And she was like, "Dad, what if I had died and I lied to my child? How would that affect my child growing up from a 5-year-old?" So, you have to be completely honest with your children, even though it might be harsh and you might think they can't handle it. They can handle that better than they can handle a lie.
Yeah,
I'm telling you
agree with that.
Yeah, I completely understand that.
Yeah.
So, Cassidy, I really want to know this. You said, you went back dating, you got engaged, you went through counseling. Let's talk about that counseling a little bit, because I think people might have a misunderstanding what counseling is and how good it is or how bad it is. Not all counselors are created the same. So what would you tell someone if they are in a depressive state, they think they are completely lonely, they don't have nothing? What would you tell them when they're searching for a counselor and how to actually find a proper one for them?
I think it's important to find a counselor that can relate to you and has at least some kind of a similar religious background as you. My counselor, she had fallen down some stairs and she had hit her face, and she had struggled with some deficits from it that were similar to mine. Like her balance is off now and she has a hard time walking and doing stairs. And so when I would talk to her about me struggling with my deficits, she could relate to that. And that helped a lot. And then I think it's important, your beliefs of if you believe in God, if you don't believe in God, find someone who can relate to that, because I know that I believe in God. And so my counselor she knows that. And so does she. And so that is something that she will have me turn to. So make sure you find someone who can relate to you and your beliefs and what you are going through.
Okay. I want to double down on that. You know, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but
Mhm.
the question I have with that is, do you find a counselor that agrees with you or calls you out on your stuff?
Oh, she calls me out.
But would you recommend someone to agree with you or someone to call you out?
I think it's important for them to call you out because it's kind of like parenting. Like, I call Linny out sometimes when she's making bad choices, and my counselor sometimes will be like, Cassidy, what were you thinking? Like, that was not a good decision. And like, then she'll be like, let's talk about why you made that decision. That was not the best. And so I think it's important for them to be able to call you out, but it's also important for you to be able to accept that with grace and dignity and recognize that they're not doing it to be mean. They're doing it to help you figure out why you made that decision or why you did that.
Accountability.
Yes.
Liability.
So that's the reason why me and Christina are friends. It's not that we get along with each other. I really don't get along with Christina at all.
And I
But we
don't
can
really
call each
like
other
them.
out on things and do it respectfully. Like
Yeah.
I know when she speaks to me that she's gonna tell me the truth, even though it might be hurtful and she might be sarcastic when she does it and
Very.
pain in my butt, but it's done out of love. So that is the type of people that you want around you, the type of
Yes.
counseling that you want around you. And a lot of people, when they go to counseling, like, oh, this person is making me feel real comfortable. You know, they understand me. They don't keep me accountable. They tell me what that other person did. That's not really helping you out. You have to
No.
find that hard truth. And once you find those hard truths, those are the people that you really should have within your life to actually move you forward. Like Cassidy's saying now, she's engaged.
Yep.
And she didn't get the proper counseling and kept on saying, woe is me, this will never be better, I am worth nothing. She wouldn't be in the place that she is in now. Am I right with that?
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Okay. Christina, I am right.
Well, good for you, Greg. Look at that. What's today's date? What's today? The 18th?
18th, I'm a big boy.
He's such a cute boy.
Thank you. Thank
Look
you.
at
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. I feel
On an
good. I feel
even
great.
day. That must mean something. We'll make sure to put it on our calendars.
Yes.
Yes,
Vindicated.
we
I've been
will.
vindicated.
In any case, Cassidy, this
Yes.
time. With you, being engaged, and congratulations again.
Congratulations.
Again, it was a huge topic that Greg and I spoke about as far as relationships. Your partner in which
Mhm.
you're engaged with, did you know them prior to your stroke?
No, I knew him after.
After.
Yep.
Okay. Is your partner, is he familiar with the signs of a stroke? Is he involved in your medical decisions? How involved is he? I mean, engagement means I'm going to marry you. So ultimately, if something happens to me, it's on you.
Yeah. So I don't actually know if he knows the signs of a stroke, but I feel like that actually is probably really important. But I'm guessing he does. He's very smart. But I do talk to him about my medical stuff. He always gives me a lot of advice. One thing that I just really loved about him was when we first started talking, before we even started dating and we were friends, he has an uncle who works with radiation patients. And he called me one day and he told me, Cassidy, I called my uncle and he told me that he sees stroke patients who make such great recoveries. So don't give up hope. Do not give up hope. Just keep pushing and you're going to be okay and everything will be okay. And I just thought that was like the sweetest thing that like melted my heart, that he like reached out to someone that he knew because he was worried about me and reached out to them to check to see what they knew as a doctor. So I do, my doctor stuff, I do talk to him about that, but I'm not sure if he knows the signs of a stroke or not.
Cassidy, one thing I will say to you, honey,
Mm-hmm.
he needs to know the signs of a stroke.
He does. Yeah, you're right.
That's before you say I do, he needs to say I understand.
Yeah.
That is very much important, especially with your history. And that's something, again, I'm not trying to give you a lesson. It's just something that with the three of us, with what we went through, that's something, just like you guys are talking about your fingernails.
Yeah.
You need to make sure somebody knows the signs of a stroke, okay?
Yeah, you're right.
That is very important because intelligence has nothing to do with it. It's awareness.
Yeah.
You need to be
And I
aware.
can tell you right
You need
after
to
this,
be
I'm going to
educated.
call him and I'm going to tell him the signs of a stroke.
Yeah.
right after.
I mean, it could be a Googleness, especially that you've already had a stroke.
Yeah.
So some of your symptoms aren't going to be the same as someone having their first initial stroke. You
Right.
mentioned that you already had paralysis of your left side.
Yeah.
So, you know, some things when you read up stroke, they say what? Drooping of one side. If you're already experiencing that, that's not going to match up. So I would say for me, just on the podcast and being out there, and if anyone else is watching and dealing with somebody, if you've already had a stroke, you need to inform the person that you're with of some of the signs in reference to that, especially you have an AVM. This is not something that, and thankfully, you know, it's gone away, but that is absolutely, before you say I do, sir, Mr. Cassidy's fiance, I need you to say I understand. That is an absolute. Same thing with your daughter. If she's able to understand in reference to the empathetic aspects of you and what you're going through, it's very important, since you spend so much time with her, for her to be educated on some of the things she needs to watch out for mommy. Because it's going to be different than someone having their first stroke when you've already had a stroke, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And I say that because I know in my relationship, I think about, you know, thankfully I was in a position where my previous relationship's mother was home and I was able to get out. I'm dying. So she called 911, but if something were to happen now, I'm pretty positive it would be different. Greg was driving by himself in the middle of nowhere, you know, where now if he's surrounded by, whether it be his mother, his father, his daughters, you know, his children, it's going to be a lot different than that situation. And I think that's something in general, as stroke survivors, we need to think about. It's not going to be the same aspect, you know?
Contingency plan, huh?
Huh?
A contingency plan?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. Asking you to be your wife is beautiful, but you need to make sure you're being taken care of as the wife.
Well, let me ask you something. I guess this is geared to both of y'all. In relationships now, not just talking about the medical part, but just everything about you. You have to be completely honest, or do you hold things back? Like you're going into this relationship, you're going to be engaged, you're going to get married. Is everything on the table? Are you completely honest now? Because I know I wasn't completely honest in my marriage. And look what happened to me in my first marriage.
I'm
As
completely honest.
Survivor, AVM survivor, is that different now?
I'm completely honest. I'm an open book about all of my stuff. So,
Christina?
Well, this is my, put my business out there. This is my first official lesbian relationship. My partner is a woman. And as women, we're nosy and we're very detail oriented. So it's very different, on top of the fact that I essentially, for myself, within this recovery, went through different stages of what it was I was looking for in a partner. Prior to her, absolutely held things back and kept things to myself, because for a man, because of that masculine energy, you don't want to seem like a weak female. You don't want to seem like a woman that possibly needs
I call
that.
foul on the play. I call foul on the play. I call foul on the play. You can't speak for every man now. You can't speak
I'm
for
not. I
every- As a
that's
man,
what
they can't see that.
I said with me dating, okay, foul on the play. Don't cut me off. Anywho, for me, ma'am, for the type of people that I was, I didn't want to show that weakness. I feel like in general, women are nurturers, correct?
Yes.
And it wasn't that I was essentially looking for that. I was looking for an energy. I was looking for something that was relevant to where I was in my life and my energy. And it happened to be in a woman. And us as women, we need transparency. For us to feel safe with you, we need transparency. And if you're giving me transparency, I'm giving you transparency. So to answer your question, Greg, yes, completely transparent with my partner that I've been with for a year. Yes,
But you didn't really answer my question.
I did answer.
No,
You
you
said
didn't.
be
No, you didn't.
transparent. I
You
said
didn't.
yes.
No, you
I
said
said
the reason
because
why.
I'm with a woman, yes.
Can I finish my question? You said the reason why you're transparent is because you're with a woman. The question I was
No.
asking is
That's not what I said.
the question I was asking was, are you being transparent now because of your stroke? And you're saying, well, you had relationships before, after your stroke with men, and it wasn't right. And now you're looking for energy, and you found the energy within a woman. I got that. But did that change if you was into a relationship with a woman before your stroke? Would you have been completely honest with them? Because a woman is so nosy, so detail oriented. That's the question I'm asking.
Yeah, I would.
So the stroke had nothing to do
You're
with
a
it.
man.
So the stroke had nothing to do with it. The stroke had
If
nothing to do with
you're
it.
not honest, she's gonna find out anyway. So you might as well
The
put it
stroke
out
had
there.
nothing to do with it. That's what the question I'm asking. Did the stroke change
Okay.
your perspective?
Well, you weren't clear, sir. You just said
Cassidy answered it correctly. Cassidy answered it correctly. You was somewhere else.
Yes. Complete
You was in
transparency.
Christina's land. You was in Christina.
Cassidy, you see what I have to deal with? He's so annoying. Oh, Greg, how about you? Are
What?
you transparent, honey buns, with the women?
Like I said, now I am. Before
I know about the nails. They need to cut nails. But are you transparent?
I was trying to answer the question, but you cut me off. Can you please stop doing that, Christina? Thank you so much. Thank you.
More than welcome. Go mucho gusto.
Before I wasn't completely honest with myself, so I couldn't be really honest with other people. And this stroke had transformed me to be honest with myself. So if I was honest with myself and stopped lying to myself, I was able to actually be honest with other people. Back in the day, have you ladies heard of you're from New Jersey, so you should know her, Lauryn Hill. She had this album called The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Of Lauryn Hill.
And she said, everyday people lie to God too. So why don't you think they will lie to you? So once I got to that point of stop lying to myself, stop lying to my God, then I was able to actually be honest with everybody around me. I wasn't able to do that before because I was so arrogant with myself. I thought I was in control of everything. But once I realized that the stroke could just, boom, take me out just like that, and I realized I was not in control anymore, I stopped fighting. So that answers my question, Christina.
And to go back on mine, although, obviously I like bringing humor to things, I don't want to make light into lesbian relationships as that I'm honest because I'm with a woman. All jokes aside, but
Christina, we lost you. We lost you for a second. What did you say?
Okay. Well, I said not to make light of my personal relationship or to make light of, women on women relationships. My honesty is not coming because I'm with a woman. My honesty is becoming because I know myself now. I had to go through what Cassidy was speaking about, being comfortable with myself. I spent so much time after this recovery of pretending to be this woman that I could no longer be. Come on alive, like Cassidy did as well. and expose yourself and say, you know, I really had to relate to myself. I completely, deeply agree with that. That was the same thing with me. You go to what you remember, right? And how you were. But until you relearn yourself, you don't know what it is that you need. For whatever reason, the universe decided that was for me in the form of a woman. So not to make light to say that I'm only transparent because I'm with a woman. I'm transparent because I'm with somebody that is leveled with my energy because I'm comfortable with myself, just like Cassidy is now comfortable with her partner. Hence, she's going to take that to another level. And Cassidy, I hope and I send you so much positivity for you and your man in this new journey. And you absolutely deserve it. And I hope it gives you hummingbirds in your stomach. And I hope you research that because that's awesome about the hummingbird. But,
You see the smile on
I
her
just
face.
wanted
You
to
see the
make
smile
light
on her
of
face.
that because, you know, some people take that and go run with it. I wanted to clarify that. It's
Christina,
not
that was beautiful. I really appreciate you saying that. But Cassidy, do you notice that we had to go through all of that for her to give us the answer that we really needed? My, because see, this is what I go through each and every week.
I also have ADHD.
See how she comes
Let
back?
that be known. I am diagnosed. I also have ADHD, but that also means that I should have probably been an engineer because my brain completely works completely different than other people. And that's also the reason why people fall in love with me.
You see what I did with every week? This is what I did with every week,
You
Cassidy.
either love me or you're hating me. There's no in between. So good for you, Greg. You're such a big boy. You're so strong. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, Cassidy, I want to thank you for being so transparent with us today. I know we asked, and the audience did too, some rough questions, but I also want to make light in the fact, Cassidy, and I really want you to take that. And I hope whenever you get some time, go back that these people that are supporting you all are saying the same thing of how amazing of a mother that you are. And as a daughter of a mother, I love that for you. And I really hope you feel every bit of that as you should. As a survivor, as a fellow survivor, I hope you feel that times 3. With that being said, make sure you guys follow us and like and turn your notifications on You're Too Young to Have a Stroke, on our YouTube, on Instagram, Y2Y2, HASTROKE, and of course the Facebook group, You're Too Young to Have a Stroke. For this month on Wednesday, we're going to be again shedding light on AVM awareness. Our last podcast is the beautiful Jamaican queen, Miss Erica, who's going to grace our screen and grace your screen. And this evening, what a blessing for us to have Miss Cassidy to not only share the intimacy of her life as a young woman surviving this and thriving through this, but as a young mother. With that being said, Miss Cassidy, what can you tell another young woman like yourself who may be a mother of what to expect and how to get through this?
It's going to be hard. It's going to be discouraging. There's going to be a lot of days that you're going to feel discouraged. But don't give up hope. You're an amazing mom. You're an amazing parent, even with deficits. And your child still loves you just the way you are. And they think you're amazing. And they think you're wonderful. And you are. So don't tell yourself that you're not. When I was in the rehab hospital that I was at, they had a sidewalk that had quotes on it. And one of the quotes, it was just my favorite. It said, I'm going to read it really quick. It says, "The one who falls and gets up is so much stronger than the one who never fell." So just remember, you are strong and amazing, and your kids are looking up to you, and they see how you're handling it. And don't think that you're less than because you've went through something hard, or maybe because you're disabled. You're not less than. You're still you, and you're still great, and your kids still love you, and they still look up to you. So don't give up.
Well said. Ladies, have a good night. Thank you for coming on. Christina,
Thank
I'll see you later.
Miss
Cassidy.
Cassidy, thank you so much, honey. You did wonderful. Thank your little mama in the back who's been so active during this live.
I
Hey,
know.
girl.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Have a
Cassidy.
good night, everybody.
Bye,
Have a good
guys.
night. Bye.